This video is all about reducing anxiety. The 15th chapter of this book, which is part of a summer book club, and all of the other women who are posting about this chapter are linked below. For most of my life, I described myself as an anxious person. Thankfully, I've grown in this area and I don't want to describe myself as an anxious person anymore. I'm sure a lot of the anxiety will come back once my family grows, but I'm glad that I've had this time without children to really work on my anxiety, because I know that even if you tell your child in words that everything's okay and you're calm, if you're not calm and you're very anxious, children pick up on that. And if you're anxious, you will teach your child to be anxious. So I am constantly working on this area of my life. I know a lot of women are worriers and struggle in this. In the book, the author reminds us that if you have excessive anxiety, stress, or symptoms of depression, definitely seek medical attention. I have talked to a therapist about anxiety. She gave me great tips, a lot of common sense tips, but hearing it from a professional, I don't know why, but it really helps. If you have someone in your life that's causing you a lot of anxiety, that doesn't need to be in your inner circle, you don't need to have that person in your inner circle. Also, simple ideas about how vast the universe is. It helps when something small happens, like if you burn dinner and ruin a pan. That is not a big deal when you think about how vast and huge the universe is. Also, if you make a small mistake or don't get something done in time, you can think, okay, 5 years from now, will this matter? Usually, no. Because I have been anxious for a lot of my life, I almost got used to it and didn't even realize I was anxious. I know with performing, anxiety is a part of it and it's normal. I used to perform a lot and I have a pretty good relationship with performing. I understand that no performance will be perfect. You can do whatever you can to have the best performance, do your best, and that's all you can do. So generally, I wouldn't be nervous weeks, days, or hours before the performance, but naturally I would get anxious maybe a half hour to 15 minutes before a performance and during the performance. And I knew that this was normal because performers who feel that excitement and bit of anxiety have a bit of an edge to their performance. It typically is a better performance than a performance by someone who is bored or doesn't have those little jitters, if you know what I mean. But that anxiety really affected my body. After a performance, my stomach would ache, would hurt for an hour or two. And it was so painful and it was so frustrating because I was done with the performance and not stressed about it at all, but my stomach hurt because I got anxious during the performance. Now I don't perform as much, so I don't have that feeling most of the time, which is great. If you've watched any of my earlier videos, you know that I do hope that my family grows soon. I'll do another video about NFP later, but my NFP teacher, reminds me to keep my stress levels down because stress really can interfere with conceiving, and even good stress, the stress of a move or the stress of planning a party, traveling. So, on my NFP chart, I chart when I'm traveling or when I performed, and I can see that any little stress, it does affect my cycle. It affects my body. I really loved a bit in this chapter by Kate Wicker. She writes 4 things that help her with stress and anxiety. So I will link Kate below because I want to make sure you know that this is Kate's list. The first in Kate's list is daily quiet time with God. She says this is not an indulgence, it's a need. To truly pour ourselves into others, we need to be filled. I have found this to be so true. The more I grow spiritually, the more I understand God's love for me, and then the more love I have for myself, a healthy love, not a narcissistic love, and then the more love I have to give to others, and it's so beautiful. I did a video about resting in the Lord and daily prayer. Whatever you're struggling with, but especially anxiety, ask God to help you, to calm your heart, and to heal this area of your life. The author mentions in Mass the prayer during the Liturgy of the Eucharist, "Deliver us, Lord, from every evil, and grant us peace in our day. In your mercy, keep us free from sin and protect us from all anxiety, as we wait in joyful hope for the coming of our Savior, Jesus Christ." I have always loved this part of the Mass, and I love that I hear it in every Mass to protect us from anxiety. And I have found that so many people suffer from anxiety, especially women. Recently on a retreat, the women broke out into a small group, and when we shared our individual struggles and prayed for each other, all of us had some sort of anxiety. I have gotten the most peace in this area from God and through prayer. Number 2 in Kate's list is sleep. I have definitely noticed a strong correlation between sleep and stress. When you have a lot to do, it's tempting to stay up late and get it done, but lack of sleep really makes stress and anxiety so much worse. I have found this to be true, and it's especially hard for me because I am a night owl, but then I also want to wake up early to spend a little time with my husband before he's off to work. So I have to push myself to go to bed earlier. Sometimes I'll wake up stressed. What day is it? Am I late? Did I miss something? Even though I always set alarms whenever I have to be somewhere the next day, I set multiple alarms, and within the alarm, I write where I need to be, what time I need to be there, so that if I'm half asleep and look at my phone, I can remember, oh, I need to be somewhere. Some sleep hygiene tips that are mentioned in the book that I completely agree with. No TV in the bedroom. I don't believe in TVs in bedrooms. My husband thankfully has gone along with this. Also, limiting alcohol. I've noticed alcohol really does affect my sleep. I love to have a drink and relax with friends, but I don't do it often because I really value my sleep. Also, a quiet nighttime prayer before bed. I have a little book of prayers by my bed, but I also like to just talk to God a little bit before bed and thank Him for everything. A little gratitude prayer is so nice before bed and does help me go to sleep. Number 3 in Kate's list is saying no graciously. This is so important, especially for women who put pressure on themselves to do everything for everyone. When I was younger, I really did try to do everything and try to be there for everyone. And thankfully, I've learned how to say no. I think we need to say no to others who, ask us to do things that we can't fit into our schedule. But we also need to say no to ourselves because we put pressure on ourselves to do things that we don't really need to do. The author touches on this. She says, retire from a committee or volunteer duty. I love to volunteer, but I do try to volunteer sporadically. If I have, time within a week, I'll look for a one-time volunteer opportunity. And I may volunteer for that organization again, but I don't commit to a schedule, and that really works for me. especially with music. I am a paid professional musician, but as a Catholic, I do also want to offer my gifts through volunteering as well. For example, in one city that I lived in, I would volunteer for some services, Stations of the Cross, for example. But recently, a nonprofit artistic performing organization offered for me to volunteer for their whole season. And it is, an auditioned group, so not just anyone can volunteer. So it is a beautiful opportunity. I did thank them for the opportunity and tell them, I'm sorry I can't commit for a whole season. And I'm so glad that I'm able to do that, because in my early 20s, I might have put the pressure on myself to do it because it is something good to do. But I think it really comes with age too, to learn to say no. The author also says, stop feeling the need to throw lavish dinner parties. I love to have people over and I love to feed people, but I do try to do easy recipes and feed people right out of my crock pot. No shame. I love the crock pot. So I do, for example, I like to carve watermelon baskets, but that's something creative that I enjoy. But with cooking, I don't really enjoy cooking, so I will just serve crock pot meals, and I'm fine with that. She also says, don't fall into the trap of needing to dress in the most popular trends. I have never been into trends. I like plain clothes. You'll notice in a lot of my videos, I wear like a plain green t-shirt all the time. This shirt, for example, was a hand-me-down from a friend. She didn't want it anymore, as well as the pants that I'm wearing right now, actually. So I love plain clothes that don't go out of style, plain pants, plain shirts. I've never been into, the puffy sleeve or the cutout sleeve, with the holes. I think that's such an unnecessary stress to feel the need to be super fashionable. She also says, stop feeling the need to decorate your home in the latest styles. I'm traveling right now. I'm in a hotel room, but I wish I could show you what I have on my windows in my home right now. We've been there 10 months and I haven't bought blinds or curtains. I just have these $5 paper curtains over all the windows because they look clean and fine, and I just don't feel the need to spend time decorating. I don't really enjoy decorating, and if there's a chance that my husband and I might move in a year, I know how fast a year can go, and I'm just not willing right now to spend the time to deal with curtains. I've hosted people at my home, my women's group, my boss, and yeah, I just have paper curtains on the windows. So yeah, keeping up with the Joneses is just an unnecessary stress. If you find yourself doing that, definitely keep yourself in check and just let go of that habit. Keeping up with the Joneses is a type of perfectionism as well. We need to let go of perfectionism. I know a lot of women have this issue, especially with this age of Pinterest. I'm so anti-Pinterest. People always ask me if I have Pinterest, and I say nope. They're like, oh, you don't have Pinterest. Life isn't perfect like Pinterest. A priest told me once that trying to be perfect is the opposite of holiness. I think what he means is only God is perfect, and we do take steps towards God, but ultimately holiness is not an achievement. It's not because of our own doing. Holiness is a gift from God. So any step towards perfection is a gift from God. So there's nothing we can do to perfect ourselves. It's God who perfects us. So try to catch yourself trying to be perfect, whether it's in your home or cooking or with your kids, and just stop yourself from doing that. Just do your best and pray and ask God to work within you. I think a lot of women struggle with perfectionism. If you have any experience with perfectionism, you know that it can cause a lot of stress and anxiety. And we need to remember that we're perfectly imperfect and we are so loved by God the way that we are. And we don't need to try to be perfect. Number 4 on Kate's list is the sacraments. The Eucharist nourishes us. Confession renews us, helps us to let go of the past and move on. Also, adoration, spiritual direction is something to consider. The author also mentions sharing with others if you have stress or anxiety. I just want to mention that if you are a person who tends to rant, for hours about things that stress you or anger you or give you anxiety, that's a sign that you probably need to talk through it with a professional, because you're feeling a lot of things and you need to work through it all and organize it in your mind. But if you're someone, who is stressed about moving, for example, and you can narrow down what you're stressed about within moving, then I think it's healthy for you to tell a friend or a family member, I'm stressed about this. The author mentions that women especially are often so gifted in listening and empathizing. I love the strong women in my life. Chapter 3, I believe, is about friendships with women, so definitely check that out. The author says that these types of women that are loving and can empathize and build each other up are special gifts from God. As an animal lover, I have to also mention pets are such stress relievers. Pets really help you to live in the moment, and my dog is just adorable. I love walking him and cuddling with him and playing with him, and he has been a stress reliever for me. I hope these tips help to calm you and to deal with the stress and anxiety in your life. Ultimately, the biggest tip is to pray and ask God for His grace. I have gotten the most peace from God, resting in Him, praying and asking for His grace. Definitely check out all the ladies below. I'm sure they have a lot of great things to say on this topic. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!